Most people think that the secret to well-being, to feeling good in your life, is fixing your physical health first. But what if real well-being goes so much deeper than that? What if the thing that's keeping you stuck isn't that you need more information about what you should be doing, and it's actually about feeling safe enough to be honest about what you really need? So Rudy came to me and she was dealing with joint pain, sleep apnea, basically getting into a full blown midlife health crisis. And somewhere along the way of this stuff piling up, she had gotten disconnected from the stuff that really made her feel alive, like dancing with her lover, going out for long hikes to see different birds, connecting with friends and community on fun trips and adventures. Basically, moving through the world with a sense of ease and joy. Now that we've been working together, she is pain free when walking up and down stairs. And so much more than that, she has found a way to bring joy into her life as just like a regular part of her life, just like part of what she does, part of how she's operating now. And Rudy talks about how the ripple effects have touched her whole life, from relationships with friends, partner, family, to even her professional life as a C-level leader at work. And in this video, she's going to tell you exactly what that was like for her. So stay tuned. Rudy's story is so powerful, and I'm so excited to share with you. What was your biggest challenge before we worked together?
About 2 years ago, I kind of felt like I was in a little bit of a health crisis. I was reeling from an ankle sprain with torn ligaments, a fresh diagnosis of sleep apnea, and so had recently started CPAP therapy, which was its own kind of like midlife mortality existential crisis. I was dealing with my parents' health crises that they were having 10 states away from me. So, I was trying to support them and help them through their health issues. And there was just a lot of demands on my body. And I think really what triggered it so much for me was like seeing my folks go through health stuff and feeling like this is a preview of my future. And my body felt not in good physical health. I did not feel in good physical health. Struggled with like movement, dancing, doing fun things that I regularly have done and enjoyed, um, like hiking and going to the beach and just like kind of day to day physical activity that I really took for granted my whole life were starting to become difficult. I I felt like I needed an intervention. And I knew that the thing that I needed the most, there was a couple of ways that I could attack it with like, starting to go to a gym and hiring a personal trainer or like seeing a therapist. And, there was like multiple ways, but I really didn't feel like I resonated. It was going to be really tough to find, and so having a self-care, a Butch self-care coach who was focused on self-care for the community and who shared a similar identity and a similar lived experience was really critical for making me feel safe to share all these vulnerabilities with a stranger. And that like made it possible for me to have like stronger accountability. In a lot of ways, I feel like our like professional coaching relationship straddles friendship too, because you're so close to my community. You are my community, or you're from my community, our queer and butch communities. And so it was like working with a friend, but I felt like a professional relationship. So I had accountability to you, and you had accountability to me and expertise that you brought into this. And so that made it the perfect partnership for me to feel like this is safe for me to be vulnerable. And it's safe for me to admit the things that I'm afraid of and as small as they were, as small as they felt in my mind. There's never anything too small for you and me to tackle, together and to work through, really. And a lot of this process has been about learning to tackle the really small things and not to let the little tiny things slide, the little efforts slide, because the combination of those little efforts add up to big efforts and big shifts. And I think that's been one of the biggest of like reframing the way that I approach my self-care, in a way that like turns it all on its head. And every thought I have, every little action I take, every time that I speak is an opportunity for me to transform the way that I'm approaching something, the way that I'm thinking or speaking about something. And every time I do that, it's just this little change, but then I find myself, then there's like these ripples and these echoes of it throughout the rest of my life and in other areas in my personal and professional life and family relationships um, and it shifts things, and it's not immediate. It's not big shifts immediately, but it's big shifts in time and over time.
What has shifted for you since we started working together?
I have to say that the things that brought me to this coaching were basic activities that I was starting to struggle with, like walking upstairs or downstairs without pain in my joints, in my knees and my ankles. Having the kind of like physical endurance and interest to go out on a walk by myself, for my health, was like not interesting to me. Um, Even though I knew it was good for me. Prioritizing prioritizing rejuvenating experiences for myself that feel luxurious and that feel like an important way to, relieve stress, treat myself, to care, to body work, to queer community, to indulging in hobbies that bring me joy. These things I wasn't considering. I wouldn't consider for myself. I kind of didn't know how to start or how to address that. And now and through this process, at your encouragement, when I would have to go down to visit my family to help with my parents' care, I would make sure to book myself a massage session while I was down there, which having some body work was really great for me because I was in a lot of physical pain with my joints. And I would book myself, I researched and found like a great queer hairstylist that I would go to while I was down there. So I would make sure to book time with them as well. Um, I learned to incorporate self-care in big ways and in small ways whenever I was going to be approaching, a stressful or like a hardship coming up, like having to travel and, take care of my family, or like I moved during this period of time and, made and did a lot of planning ahead of time to make sure that I paced myself well. I built in time for rest and time for recovery and rejuvenation. But it was really in the like, okay, here comes a potentially stressful situation. What can I do at the outset to lessen that, to make sure that I've lessened it during, but before, and that I'm taking care of myself after. Um, and approaching life that way, that's really where the big effect has happened, because it's not just now like small things that where I plan for, but I do this in all aspects of my life. I just make sure to schedule rest, schedule recovery time, schedule and take and plan out the little things, like what I'm going to eat, how I'm going to snack, how I'm going to get water in for the day, when am I going to do some stretching, working that stuff into routines, right? And into like special events that come up. Um, So yeah, I think that those have been some of the most impactful things.
Amazing, amazing. I'm gonna dig in a little deeper there with at least one part of what you said that I'd love to hear you elaborate on more. Just of like the shift of you said when you first came to me, you were experiencing pain, like just like going up and down the stairs. Is that is that your experience now? Has that shifted?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it has shifted. Um, and I don't know if I've had this chance to share this with you, but like uh I'm walking up and downstairs with no pain most of the time. And I live in a second floor walk-up apartment, and I work in facilities management. So stairs are a regular part of my life. And I live in New York City, and if I took the train, you New Yorkers know what stairs are like. Um, yeah, so I don't have that pain in my knees anymore because I have pursued a bunch of avenues of care. And it really took pursuing a bunch of avenues of care. It wasn't just one thing, which I started with physical therapy. Then it ended up into massage therapy, and then massage therapy turned into like really dedicated stretching efforts. And by really dedicated, I mean like 4 minutes a day, worth of stretching. But in that process of probably 18 months, um but there have been like moments of acceleration for sure, but really since starting like stretching, like I don't have that pain anymore when I'm confronting stairs. And I feel lighter on my feet, and I'm moving easier in the world. um and it's been, you know like a direct result of the little efforts that I have taken along the way and have stacked up. And then suddenly one day I don't have pain when I walk downstairs, and I can do a runner stretch that I hadn't been able to do in, for a long, long time. I was athletic in high school and in my 20s, and was a carpenter in my 30s. So, um, to not be able to do some of those physical things that I could used to be able to do was really like stunning and scary. And now I can do them again. And I also feel really hopeful about like continuing on this path, and I'm not interested in stopping, although I certainly could, but I'm excited about like progressing more with it too. Our session started with you helping me get clear on like what it was that I wanted to work on. And it was about visioning for myself. We did these visionings for myself, and I was pretty clear that I didn't have like some kind like it wasn't a number, it wasn't a like a number of reps to do something, it wasn't an exercise. It was like I want to go out dancing with my lover and, have a great time and not like be enabled to walk at the end of the night, because my knees are hurting so bad. And because I have the endurance to keep up on the dance floor. I want to um, be able to just do basic things too, walk up and down stairs with ease.
Yeah.
And I want to have movement in my life as a regular part. And I want to reframe the way I think about movement as joy and not as a chore. I think that was a big thing that I was coming to this with, is like exercise is a chore. And I'm not interested in exercise as a chore. I want to reframe it, which I think is a tough task to give someone to like coach them through. Is like, help me change the way I see exercise, like that's a lot of undoing, cultural things and social things and capitalistic things and all this kind of stuff. That's a lot to undo. And you took that problem, and you just like broke it down into little small bites of ways to address it, attitude and, keeping clear on vision, on my vision and my focus, and finding little ways to begin to make shifts, and helping me identify activities that I do enjoy that I don't think of as exercise, this is like a concrete evidence, I think, of how you did this.
Mhm.
Um, so helping me identify things that I don't see as exercise, but things that I enjoy. So tapping into things that I love, like taking walks in the woods and looking and listening to birds and um, um, like other activities that kind of don't show up as exercise, but fed me. You know, you help me identify that these are things that really nurture me and encourage me towards them, working them into my schedule, making time for them. Calendaring. I feel like calendaring is probably one of the most significant things that you have, that habit that you have taught me to do, which is feels so basic and simple and has been totally critical. And maybe it's just been critical for me because I respond well to calendaring and not everybody sees time the way that I see time. So, but you found that out about me and you worked with that, you know. You learned like what was going to motivate me and like what I was going to be interested in tracking and following, and then you just like blew that up, you know, and made that like part of the process and part of the game for me. And that was really smart, really strong intuition, and also just like really curious, asking questions about me, you know, really getting to know me and like what motivates me. Um, and then like shifting and pivoting to like move towards the things that like motivate me. And that's genius. I mean, I think that's really genius of you. I think that's at least part of what makes you so good at this.
Thank you. Thank you. Who, me? What? How would you explain the value of this work to other butches?
I guess the easiest way I would explain the value of this to other butches is that um, I know that I have spent money on this coaching experience, but I really only feel like I have spent money on myself, even though I've paid another being for it. But, you know, like every time I've paid the bill, I've just felt like that's going right into me. It's going right into like, okay, it's weird because it's coming out of my pocket, but I also feel like it's coming right back into me. So that experience of feeling like there has been a cost, but I haven't felt it, you know, is strange. If there's anything else I wanted to say about that, I would also say that I would say that it's invaluable, which is kind of corny and like maybe too easy, but um I think it's probably been one of the most important investments in my self, in my health, in my um just of all it has been one of the most important investments I've ever made in myself. And I wouldn't do it differently, and I wish it for everybody, because because we need help. You know, we're just humans doing life for the first time, most of us, many of us, um, and you can only like lean on your friends and family for so much. Um, and, you know, part of the reason why I got into this is because, you know, my partner is a nurse and I was having health issues, and I really didn't want to lean on her as a nurse, even though she, you know, was professionally, you know, does this care work for others. I didn't want to lean on her because I didn't want that to like impact our relationship, you know, or become just a burden to her or to other friends, you know. Um, and yeah, so having this as a resource has been like one of the best gifts I've ever given myself.
Amazing. Amazing. So much of what you said has been so powerful. And I had another question that came up too. I feel like so many people like in our community are like very aware of therapy as an option, but
Mhm.
not so aware of coaching. So if you could speak a little to like the difference of like What's the difference between like working with me and like working with a therapist?
Yeah. And I have worked with a therapist before, so I do have experience with both. I'm not sure that I would have identified that coaching or life coaching was for me. It was really about this being self-care coaching, which I identified as like self-care. I should be doing self-care.
Mm.
What is self-care? How do I know that I'm doing self-care? Like where do you even begin? Um, yeah, so, talk therapy is great. And I think that this coaching experience for me there's been a good amount of like project management involved with it and me learning how to project manage my various health and self-care projects. Which again, that might be your approach because you sensed and you knew that I would respond to project management and project management tools. And I don't know if that's a defining quality of self-care coaching, but it has been a part of our experience.
Taking
Um,
action is a big focus, of not
yeah,
just like, let's figure out what the feelings are, but like take action in
right.
the
Yeah.
ways you want.
Yeah. Um, and um Yeah, I mean this coaching has, it touched all aspects of my life, really. Um, I mean, even aspects that I didn't approach you for or think that I wanted to address necessarily. Um, we would get really into the nitty-gritty of like nutrition and like physical activities, and you always have made, tried to like bring in the having fun and prioritizing fun, prioritizing joy and play. And I have been partnered this whole time. And so you've always like touched on like, how are you making time and space for you and your partner to enjoy each other's company and to play with each other and to have a good time. Um, and I think like therapy does, we'll certainly ask about the whole person, um, but we're going to talk about it. Yeah, instead of like taking steps to do activities and and tick boxes and get things done. And I think that's a big part of how these two approaches are different.
Awesome. Awesome. If there's anything else that you're like, I'd like to just add this in.
I would also say that like while I did, approach self-care coaching, like I sought it out. I had been following, your Instagram, your Butch Yoga page, and had taken one or maybe attended one or two of the, Butch Yoga classes that you'd offer online. While I did seek it out because I believed that it would be good for me, I don't think I expected that it would be as impactful as it was. I didn't expect that I would do it for 2 years almost, or 2 years. Um, and I didn't expect it to have like ripple effects in the rest of my life, and in my professional life. I'm better at my job, my job and leadership of an organization because of my self-care coaching that we've done together. Um, for sure, I know that for 100%. And I didn't expect that and wasn't looking for that. And also, we've kind of barely touched on professional growth in our sessions. So it's really a product of all the approach to the work that I've been able to carry forth and think about my work and um because of this coaching in this way. And yeah, so it just has like continued to be the gift that I give myself that just keeps on giving, honestly. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.